want to start off, Vinish, is to focus with what you have gained in your career so far. And I believe it's a couple of decades of experience so far for you. So what specific instances, Vinish, has given you the maximum learning? So if you can share some stories or some instances, that would be very, very valuable for us.
Yeah. Okay. So there have been many, instances. I don't know. I mean, if I'll start documenting, I don't know, it will go on for like another couple of hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, one of the big one, that really triggered, a kind of a shift in my career. So I'll say that, I was working with one of the biggest telecom provider, global telecom provider, and that's in Delhi NCR. And it was, I think, June 2007, and I'm pretty sure it was a Friday.
Okay.
So I was in the office, and my super boss, so my boss's boss, called me up, and he said, "I want to see you." So said, okay. So because we were handling that point of time, there were a lot of major projects were going on. So I thought maybe, it's some escalation. So I went on to, to meet him. And then, after the usual greetings, he said, "Vinish, we have an opportunity for you. And we want you to independently head a department." So, and so I was like really curious in my own mind, it's going on that there are so many other senior managers, in terms of the age and all. Why me, and kind of thing. But instead of asking that question, I just asked which department. So he said, "Well, we can't share that with you right now. And but are you up for the opportunity? Yes or no?" So I said, "Okay, I need some time to think." So he said, "Well, you can take all the time you want, but get back to me by 4 p.m. today."
Okay.
So I looked at my watch, and it's already 2 p.m. Yeah.
Okay.
So I said, "Okay, fine. Let me think over it, and I'll come back to you."
Okay.
So now you see, I'm walking out of his office, towards my seat, and I'm thinking in my mind, it's a well set organization. Their structure is really in place. There's no new department coming up, and I personally know all the head of the departments. Nobody's under the notice period. So which department is he talking about? And what kind of people are they? I'm going to meet, and what kind of challenges are there? So all that is going on in my mind. I'm just trying to, I'm very curious at that point of time.
Okay.
So, but anyway, so I didn't have much choice in the sense that, to get the answers. And he specifically mentioned that you can't discuss this with any of your colleagues. You can't discuss this with your boss.
Wow. It had a
So
lot of
you just have to, exactly. So I said, okay, fine. So then I went back to meet him, 3:45, and I said, yeah, okay, fine, I'm up for it. So he said, oh, great. So here's your new offer letter. So, I think he was very confident that I would be saying yes. He was already prepared with the letter and everything. So then I looked at the letter, and I looked at the name of the department. I almost, fell off my chair, and I said, "Oh, boss, I know this department. I know it's being headed by Kunal. So, I mean, I'm changing the name for obvious reason over here. So, why this sudden change?" So he said, "Yes, Vinish, there has been a major compliance issue. He's leaving on Monday, and he doesn't know it yet." So it was a big thing. So anyway, so I took the opportunity, got in the new department, and realized that the things were in pretty bad shape over there. So over the next few days, I became the soundboard of my team and my stakeholder, jotted all the issues and challenges, and then went on to create small service improvement team, or you can say project improvement team, to pick each and every challenge area. And we created something called like a tiger team kind of a thing, who would be going and attacking these issues.
Okay.
And within a very short span, I believe maybe 6 months or so, we were really able to turn things around. And by the end of the year, we were one of the very high performing team, and we were recognized in the organization, and so that's how it went. So why it was a turning point for
If
me?
I can interrupt you, would it be all right? What
Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
So were there any
Okay.
specific behaviors that you unconsciously demonstrate?
Yeah, yeah, actually, yes, that's a very good point. So, no, if you go to the backdrop of this entire incident, what happened is that I joined the organization in 2005, towards the end of 2005, and this I'm talking about incident is 2007. So I joined in the capacity of senior manager, and I was handling the North American, or rather Americas, as an business side of it. Okay. So this entire center was like a captive offshore center with the network team and the high-end technical team. There was software development arm, so there's a lot of these teams which were there. A lot of work moved from Europe, from US, and all that. So the area that I was managing in my senior management or senior manager capacity was Americas. Now you see, this work was new, and almost everybody, the whole setup was new. See, this team in India is there since 1956, and there were hardly about 50 people. And suddenly it went on from 50 to 2,500 people in 2005, 2006. So when I joined, so mine was more of a graveyard shift. You know, all the trainers, everybody used to leave around 6 or 7. So there was nobody to share the knowledge. And you can't even go back to ask your counterparts in Americas because they will be, they'll treat you like as if, we have moved their jobs from there to here. So they would not be treating us nicely. They would not be sharing knowledge. So we were left pretty much on our own. So I was kind of senior manager for North Americas. I had somewhere around 35 solution delivery managers with me, and then their team and everything. So it was a setup, so complete big team size. So so what happened is what is the change that I brought in over there? So every day, irrespective of the hierarchy,
Mhm.
no matter whether somebody is a senior manager or a team leader or a tech leader or whosoever. So, so our shift used to start at 11 in the night,
Okay.
and so around 2 or 3 we would be taking break, and then we would be getting, so the good thing about the night shift is that the office is pretty, empty, so you can get into any of the boardroom you want. So we used to just go in the huddle, the entire team, and then we used to all share each other's challenge and problem, what we have faced today, what we have learned, and we created our own little, you can say, a knowledge base kind of thing,
Okay.
our own KB.
Okay.
And so one of the guy who was like a front end developer, so he immediately created that KB as a ready reckoner. And so initially we faced a lot of print, but then once again over a period of time, by end of 2006 or so, the whole team was awarded as an excellent achiever in about 168 countries. So I think that was one of the major shift, or that was a kind of a background why I was given this opportunity, all of a sudden. And definitely, in the beginning, it was not followed as in proper HR process and all because of the compliance dynamics and everything. So when I was given this new department head position, so I joined as an acting head, and
Okay.
then afterwards, the interviews and everything were conducted. It went through the whole yard. So I was still have to fight to get the position, but yes, I was performing that role. So
Okay.
that's how the shift has happened. So one of the big learning why I took this as an incident to share is this is probably, everybody is like, nowadays, I think people want everything black and white. They
Yeah.
want the clarity. They want, the situation to be like, properly well documented. They want proper JD. They want, that kind of thing. For me, one of the biggest thing was that, never ever shy away from unknown.
Correct.
Definitely, you need to deliberate, you need to take calculated risk, but you can only plan things up to certain extent. You cannot plan everything, in your life. So as I say, one should always be open to anomalies because I think that's where the opportunities are.
Absolutely. I mean, this is what we say. One of the key things is manage in the gray, right? Other instances, Vinish?
Well, any other instances? Okay, I'll go to the same, same setup or same team.
Okay.
Um, so one of the another instance was that while I was working as a senior manager, so there was guy. Once again, I'm changing the name. His name, let's say his name is Peter. Okay, he was my counterpart in North America, and because a lot of things moved from his team, so we were not. I mean, the relationship was not that great, and there always used to be escalation, always.
Okay.
And and even on the call, he would be, using the word or the phrases like "you Indians" and "you this" and "you that," but he would be very tactful in saying that, so that I can't even raise it to HR. I can't even, put it as an issue.
Mm-hmm.
So we both were in our own mindsets. Even I was carrying a perception
Okay.
for him. So one day, I documented some very nice idea and I sent it out to the global team saying that, this is how the process change should be. We will be getting this benefit and this and that, whatnot, right?
Okay.
So I knew that somehow, I had this in my mind that moment I'll send this mail, he would be reading it and he would be putting, on top of it, he would be writing something nasty. So I was ready in my own mind, said that once he will be sending the reply, what will be my counter reply to it? Okay.
Okay.
So I was really set
Prepare.
in my own exactly. So as I guessed, he sent a mail. I looked at his mail and I clicked on reply all, and there were like about maybe 30, 40 people, all senior management in that mail. So I clicked on replied all and I drafted the mail, what I had in my mind, really going back on him. So, and then there's my colleague who used to head Europe. He was sitting next to me. So we were kind of overlapping shifts that day. So he was sitting next to me. I said, "Kamal, you see, this guy is doing this and that and whatnot. He has replied now. Let me show you, what I really mean and all those things." So then he said, "Okay, let me read your mail." So he read my mail and then he scrolled down and he read the Peter's comment on it. So after reading the comment, he said, "Vinish, but where is he saying all this thing? In fact, he's appreciating you."
Mm.
I said, "What are you saying, Kamal?" He said, "Yeah, just read it." Then I went back and I read that mail again, what he has replied on my mail. And I realized, yeah, for the first time after maybe a couple of years, he's really appreciating me to what I suggested. And imagine if I would have sent that mail, what would have happened? Going to all the senior management and everybody. So another lesson I learned, that I think we need to keep things in perspective. It cannot be, we cannot be judgmental. I think we need to take one thing at a time to understand the situation. Especially when we are dealing with, different people and different culture and different backgrounds.
Correct. I
Thank
also
you.
want to check with you, Vinish. I mean, you've served across the middle management, the senior management, so you worked across multiple levels in an organization. So, and today, the way the workforce is shifting is that you'll have to accommodate a multi-generational workforce. So, what are you observing as key shifts that organizations are preparing for this multi-generational workforce to work together and accomplish something more?
Okay, so it's a very interesting one. See, I mean, even to get into to give you rather than giving you a straight answer to it, I think we need to just take a step back and think about it. What are what drives these generation when you say they're multi-generation?
Yeah.
What's their requirements are, and then we will try to come to a level where we can harmonize. I think that's the kind of that's the part of your question. So if you look at the last 100 years or so, so there have been a massive shift the way generations are and the way generations think or what they require. Okay, so if we go back like maybe 100 years or so back, the times of our great grandfathers or our great fathers, sorry, our grandfathers, right?
Yeah.
Whom we call as in what is the name, like GI generation and the silent generations, right? So the GI generation, the silent generations were, and so look at the world at that point of time. You know, there was a Great Depression in Europe and America. There was freedom movement going across in I don't know how many countries, including India. And the World War was going on. You know, so World War One finished, and when World War One was still continuing. So I think majority of the population across the globe was still fighting for survival. You know, it was it was with most of them, the issue was to put the food on the table.
Yeah.
You know, so that's what they were striving for. Then came the boomers, or what we whom we call as baby boomers, right? So now, if you look at the baby boomer, they started going for little extra, little more than survival. So, so little extra in the house, little extra, maybe having one vehicle, maybe going to a movie or restaurant in a month, maybe getting new clothes over the festivals. So that was the shift. You know, these guys were baby boomers. Then came our generation. You know, the generation who were like kind of born before 80s or 79s or 80s, right?
Yeah.
So we are the generation who moved ahead for, or who really worked for the standard and quality of life. You know, so the quality of life is far more important to us in terms of having a better house, better car, maybe international travels, and branding, and then having nice clothing, branded clothes and all, going to restaurants more frequently, weekend parties. So that's where this thing shifted. Then if you look at the millennials now, right, when we are talking, I mean, for the youngest generation on the workforce side are the millennials, not generation, the next ones. So, so I think these guys, they work for passion, you know. So because they are done with, they no longer bother about that whether they have food to eat, whether they have home to live, whether they have any car to drive or bike to drive. So that's all done. You know, they are done with it. It's like for them, it's kind of given factor. Okay. So now if you try to collate, these things together. So if you look at on an average an office environment, you might still find maybe maybe 2-3% of the people who are from baby boomer generation. Probably who would be in their 60s or something, depending upon the organizational policy and all. And then maybe 40% around people who are like from our generation X and Y. And then you have millennials, which are like contributing
now
like
we
more than
have the
50%.
millennials as well, the Gen Z's that
Correct.
they're
So exactly. So I think the biggest challenge for the organization right now is that how do you strike the balance? Okay. For us, the routine and the discipline and some of these things are extremely important. Like if we have to go to office like 9 a.m., we need to swipe the card, then we have to swipe the card at 9 a.m. So there's we don't have any problem with it. But that's not how generation afterwards think. They think about, you give me the task, you know, and you talk to me end of the day whether I have completed my task or not. I'm coming at 8 in the morning or 10 or 12. It should not be a concern for you, right? So it's more objective oriented thing which is happening now. And then the culture is also shifting. People don't want to, no longer want to sit in the cubicles and work. I mean, I'm just talking about from an office setup point of view. They all love beanbags and couches and sofa and want to sit in the recreational area and work from there. And I don't see that there's anything wrong with it. I think that's also part of the work or the shift. And I think sooner or later, organization, if they are not already moving, they will have to move. Look at the COVID situation. Everybody is working from home. And so even if you don't want to, you will have to. There's no other choice. So yeah, I think over a period of time, I think there would be a very good balance on it, or rather, I would say that the shift would be more and more towards millennials because that's where the majority of workforce is going to come from.
Definitely.
And then I think a lot of these things would be taken for granted because millennials no longer is going to come for an interview and ask, do you have work from home or not? I mean, as in policy, they would consider that it's given, you know. So that's how it is, you know. So that was my part, you know. I think a lot of organizations are balancing it out, but I think the shift is going to towards more and more millennial side of it, and I think it would be very soon, you know, sooner than we expect.
So good, Vinish. So this has been a good spend once again, I should say. And I wanted to extend the conversation further because you have worked across multiple cultures. So I want to see what are some things that you want to call out as the biggest learnings that people have to when you work across cultures. And today, culture is actually a digital culture also included in the whole thing, right? So how do you
Absolutely.
manage all this, Akhil?
So, I mean, I'll try to mix, I mean, rather than, you know, so I won't say that not only some of these instances have shaped my professional life, but even my personal life. Okay.
Wonderful. Sure.
So I can recall few of them. So one of the instance was that I think it was maybe my second or third international trip. And I was in Cairo and was really excited, you know, I mean, in terms of going and meeting people over there. So there's one female colleague of mine, and we have been talking on phone for I think over months, you know, and even the video conferences and things like that. So I was really looking forward to meet her. I was all excited, you know. So the moment I entered my Cairo office, I straight away went to her desk and with all, you know, charged up and in excitement and everything. So I greeted her and then, you know, so I offered my hand for shake, you know. So, and she really hesitated, you know. She hesitated for few seconds before reciprocating the greeting back to me. And then she also kind of reluctantly shook my hand. So, okay, so that incident happened. And then, so in my mind, you know, it was like very awkward, you know, I'm kind of, you know, with all smiling face, I'm standing there with my hands offered, you know, and she's not taking it to, you know, so, so then I started observing while, so I was there for a couple of weeks and when I observed the general culture in the office, I realized that so there's a big distance in between the men and women in terms of how they work. It's not that there are more men or there are more women or something like that. In no, it's not that they are not respecting each other, but there is this distance, you know. Um, so then I realized that what she was doing is it's part of her culture, you know, and there's nothing wrong in it. In fact, I should be, you know, I should have been more sensitive about it, you
True.
know. So before leaving Cairo, you know, before leaving the office, I went on to meet her, and then I said, I apologize for my unawareness. And she said, no, it's perfectly fine, you know, and then we became really good friends over a period of time, you know. And so definitely whenever you are planning for any trip, no matter what, you know, if you are going to any country or meeting new people for first time, or if even if people are coming to meet you from other countries, right? It's always better that we do our homework, we understand the dynamics of their culture, and then you know take it up accordingly. So from that day onwards, I don't know, I have traveled, I think maybe around 35 countries or so globally. So that's one thing that I I can recall. So that's one instance.
Okay.
The second is more often not as an instance, I would say, but it's more of an general thing that I have. It's more of an observation, I would say. So I've spent about 7 years in Africa, and so if you look at African genetically, they don't have hairs like you and me, right? I mean, it's like short hairs and that. So, but if you look at the women, and I'm not saying about whether she's coming from a rich class or she's coming from a lower income background, they would all go like every weekend, and they would spend quality time on hair weaving, getting their hair weaved. So it looks, nice and long and this thing. And it's the way they carry. Even if you would see my house help after 6 p.m. when she's off duty, you would not realize that, I mean, you can see her and you can see a CEO. You can't make out any difference. So it's the way people carry, and they really enjoy life. They spend on themselves. And yes, future planning is important, but I think, and it's really important message in learning, that you really have to be confident. You don't have to be really embarrassed. You don't have to get pulled back by your flip side of it, right? So you really have to put across a nice pleasing personality in the front, and that gives a lot of confidence.
Absolutely.
So, what in your
Correct.
experience and observation do you feel are something that are missing that these millennials need to definitely focus on to kind of balance aspirations with the reality of life?
Yeah, see, I would say, some of the skills that, so okay, let me confirm your question. So are you saying that the skills that are like kind of missing, or kind of they need to develop or
Yes.
something?
Yes, so I think it's a combination of both, something that may not be aware of in terms of they need to do this, and something maybe they've started, but they don't understand the importance of where will it take them to if they were to kind of consistently focus on doing it.
Okay. See, one of the things that I think, one of the biggest thing, you will see that in today's world, there's so much of information which is like flowing freely. Yeah. Especially in the social media side of it. I think it's very, very important for the generation to find a good mentor or a coach, and that can be anybody. Need not to be a face-to-face person. It can also be a book, in a form. It can also be a personality to follow or a leader to follow, and I think that can give them really a good shape to move ahead. I think and this is not something that I'm like kind of saying new. I think a lot of people have emphasized in the past about it. But in today's world, especially the digital world, it's really, really important to have somebody as a mentor or as a coach. So that's one thing I would say. Then I'll say that, you know, a lot of young generation is striving for uniqueness, in their ideas. you know so they look really, say that okay, they want to something like really unique. So I'm not saying that the unique is not good or bad or something, but it might not always work. you know so even if your idea is not unique, it's okay. you know but the thing is that what is your approach towards this is more important. Okay, they should be striving more towards the improvisation of something rather than always fighting for inventing something. Okay. So, as somebody said, we really don't have to do different things. We just need to do things differently. So,
Exactly.
and I really go by that thing, and it's extremely important. So that's another one I would say. Um, well, then I would say that, no, once again, as it's my observation that today everything is kind of quick. It's like quick pizza, quick cab, quick relationships and all. But I think what is really important is to be in that moment, to enjoy that moment, which is largely missing. Everything is going on in hurry. Um, and sometimes it's very important to take a pause, reflect, enjoy, cherish, be grateful to what you have, and then be in that moment and then move forward. Because I think that journey is more important than the milestone. Really have to enjoy the journey. So these are some of the things that I'll say that I think it's is critical, I think. And last but not the least, I'll say that you know, lot of things are actually going because of the social pressure, or should I say the social media pressure. Okay, if you might see
Yeah.
people, really getting bogged down with the pics or the selfies or whatever that people post or their friends post on social media, right? I mean, maybe somebody really likes going out every weekend for the party, and so you don't have to really feel left out. Maybe that's not your thing. Maybe your thing is that to sit quietly somewhere in the corner and read a book, or maybe to go on a field photography trip or something. You really don't know. So let's not get into that social media pressure kind of a thing, and be in your own domain and your own self.
So coming to networking, Vinish, so what is networking to you? And how do you think is the importance of this for the younger generation who are aspiring to be CEOs and leaders of the future?
Okay. See, Akhil, you have asked me this, right? You have asked me this in the past, right? So, um, if I in fact, I have taken a note and I'm kind of reading it right now here. So I really looked at the Oxford Dictionary, meaning that what exactly is networking, how they define networking. So they say that practice or system of meeting or talking to other people doing the same kind of work as you, or who might be useful to your work in the future. Okay?
Mhm.
So if you look at it, what if I try to break this? It says same kind of work or usefulness or something like that. For me, I really don't go by this definition at all. You know, if you really are building a network to achieve something, then the chances are you will not be able to achieve that. You know, if you are starting to create your network now in order to gain something with like in the shorter span of time, you can't. It just don't work that way. It's not designed to work that way. So for me, it has to be like it needs to be a lot of proactiveness, and there should not be any baggage in your mind when you are doing the networking. There should not be any purpose in your mind. So how do you actually go about doing it? And then how do you create, and this is a very sustained continued effort that people need to put in over the years to the earlier you start, the better it is, for an individual. So for my, if I say my 3-point mantra towards networking, I would say that every individual is important. Whomsoever you are meeting, everybody is important. Everybody is valuable. It might be that you don't see their value right now, but they are important. So that's the mindset you need to carry when you are meeting somebody. It doesn't matter whether you are meeting the CEO of a company, or you are meeting, some bank manager, or you are meeting some marketing guy or sales guy, or even your apartment security guard. It really doesn't matter. So you need to be, when you are connecting, you need to connect all across, because everybody is important. So that's number one. Number two, you see, the people are very smart. They can see through you. Okay. So if you are faking it, they will understand. So you need to be polite, humble, sincere, and genuine in your approach when you are interacting and when you are connecting with them. Okay. So so when you do that, and then you have to be, that effort has to be continued. It's not that you have met somebody once or twice and that's done. No, that's not how it works. Once again, so as much as possible, even if it is, I won't say weekly or monthly or something, but at least once a year. There's social media, there's LinkedIn, there's Facebook, there's Instagram, Twitter, whatever. You need to be continued in your effort to interact. with them. So these are the first 2 points. And the third point, I would say, be ready to give more than what you expect in return. So or rather, be very, very open towards what you expect. Also, that's also very, very important. Yeah, if you look at what Akhil, I have known you what 8-9 years now, more than that probably. Yeah, so now you see today's session, right? So we three are coming from all different walks of life, and I'm connected to you, and you are connected to her, and that's how this session is happening. And we are coming together for a common objective, common cause, right? And so that's one example. This is nothing but a networking. I'll give you another very, very interesting incident, Nikhil. So maybe I think maybe 2004 or 5, I went to Himachal for a trek. And in the Kalpa district of Himachal, there's a Chaka glacier. So we were going for the trek to the Chaka glacier. The local village boy, okay, so his name is I think Rajat or Raman something. Raman, sorry. So we met him there, and then he accompanied us all through the trek, and it was a 2-day trek, and he was there with us and Raman and everything. So and then after that we stayed in touch. It's not that staying in touch like kind of everything once in a while, like Holi, Diwali, festivals, exchanging the greetings, calling, how's your family, this, that, that's it. Now you see how the things move and how things shift. He went on to become the police inspector in Himachal Pradesh police.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
Okay. And then during Commonwealth Game 2010 in Delhi, so you see the government has requested the extra forces from all the states, right? So he came to manage the CWG games, right? And in 2010, so one of my clients, they were visiting, and so they expressed their interest to go and see the games. And it was like a last minute thing, and I had no connection, nothing. The passes were all sold out and everything. So I just called him. I said, Raman, this is a situation. I have a client who wants to go and see the games. Can you do something? He said, yeah, why not, Bhaiya? Let me arrange for you. And then he went on. I don't know what he did. He arranged for the passes. And then by afternoon, I had the passes in my hand, and then everything was fine. So you see how there was absolutely no thought process, nothing. It was just a casual discussion that started, and then over the year, this relationship was built. So it's not necessarily always business or always targets or something. It is more to do with a human-to-human connection. Because once again, I firmly believe, or I want to conclude this to say that, okay, everybody, someone is connected to someone, and that someone is connected back to you. So it's like the world is a very small place, as they say. So that's why it's extremely important. Yeah.
Look, what can Vinish do differently in his career? Today, given that the digital natives or the young zillennials and millennials, they have so much of exposure and experience, and they come into the workforce, and nowadays you see young CEOs who are from this generation, right? So what would you do differently, Vinish, in such a situation if you had to do something now? If you were coming from this generation?
Well, okay. So let's say if I'm shifting my date of birth like 10 years or 20 years ahead, right? So
yes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I would like to, in fact, this is not something that I would be doing. In fact, I did, few years back. I really wanted to understand that. I was really getting frustrated with my day-to-day thing, and then I started realizing that is it really something I want to do, or is it something different that I want to do? I don't know. I mean, so then I started linking it with my passion, or trying to understand what my callings are. Sounds very philosophical, but I think it's very important. So I kind of went back to the drawing board, and I created, a kind of a Venn diagram sort of thing. It's very similar to Ikigai. How Ikigai works, but then, I mean, it's not that complicated. It's very simple to say that I had like three circles drawn in terms of one. The first circle was that if money, or if I don't have any liabilities, like, and if I have all the money, all the time in the world, then what is that I want to do? You know, so, so I kind of made a complete list of it. Then the second circle was that, what is that I'm good at? So one is that, I've created all this list, maybe I want to climb Mount Everest, but then am I really good at climbing? So the second list was that, what am I good at? So documenting. So even if I don't know what I'm good at, maybe looking at people, what people have praised in me. So maybe they have seen something good in me. So even documenting that. So one is that I know it by myself that yes, I'm good at this. But at the same point of time, what others have praised before. So documenting that as well. So that was my second list. Then came the third list. What are my liabilities? Okay. So then, so maybe, for example, I'll just give you one example. So maybe my first list says that, I want to be a cricketer. Okay. Then my second list says that, yes, I'm good at, playing cricket, and maybe I'm a good bowler. Okay. But then came the liabilities and my current status. Okay. I'm sitting at this age, and these are my liabilities. Now, if today, if I start my journey to become the bowler in a maybe Class A cricket match, then would I be able to, reach there? So probably the answer is no, right? So what I did is, after creating these three lists, I looked at all the three together to come up with what are the intersecting points. So one, yes, I have my financial liabilities, I have my other liabilities, so I cannot do something which is not giving me something in return. So that's a practical situation. But if I am into something which I don't like, sorry, but if I have to do that every day, then what are the alternatives? So I'll share my thing with you, that I realized that I'm probably a more, highly creative person. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
For me, the right career choice would have been maybe to become like a designer, maybe graphic designer, or maybe, or maybe getting into something creative field like art, media, or maybe like a chef, because I know that I can be a very good chef. I know how to, I know the ingredients very well. I know how to mix them very well. So I know that point, that part of it. But can I do that now? I mean, sitting at that point of the career, can I start that? Probably the answer is no. So one, I have to do what I'm doing, but then how do I balance it out? So what I started doing is that I became more creative in my approach towards what I'm doing. So for example, utilizing my passion, like in PowerPoint presentations. Um, so utilizing it there, writing, whatever the creative thoughts are, doing that. Maybe designing in the sense that designing, looking at the designs in everything, maybe interior, home, office. So even clothing. So that's where I started molding myself. Then came, then also indulging myself in photography. So especially in the wildlife photography. So that's how the shift happened. Now what is happening is that maybe what I'm doing for the living is not giving me enough energy, but now that's being balanced by the other side of me. So now this is giving me enough thrust to drive this side, which might not be my actual calling. So now both sides are happy.
Wonderful, wonderful, very nice. Very. I think it's an important thing to find ways to keep your passion going, but at the same time, don't run away from commitments, because that's something that you have to face.
Absolutely.
In terms of like, what is your key message for the millennials watching us, hearing these conversations, and also people who are kind of aspiring to be the young CEOs or the leaders of organizations of tomorrow?
Yeah. See, basically, I would say that know your value in the sense, so my message would be that it's important to understand your value. Don't let somebody else decide your value. Don't get into the game of valuation, even not only for the um, uh, youngsters, but this is equally true also for the young companies or for all the startups also. you know so you understand your value, you create value. That's important, but don't get into the game of valuation at too early stage. These are two different things, right? So the moment you will get into the game of valuation, you will lose that you really need to create value. So I think so the value creation is much more important, and they really need to understand what their worth is. They don't need to get carried away by a salary number or a revenue number or something, because sky is the limit for them. I think the whole world is looking at them. We all are, and that's my message to them.
Vinish, as we end this interview, I wanted to know, is there something like a book or any piece of advice that has changed you? I mean, I don't know if you are a great reader, you should share with us a couple of books, but some of them don't get their knowledge only from reading. There are other ways and other means through which they must have gathered their knowledge. So is there anything that you want to share?
See, I won't say that I'm a big time reader, but yes, I do read whenever I get time. And especially try to read something which is like more true life kind of thing. So that's there. So, so if you look at, so I really read on APJ Abdul Kalam. So that's one of them. One of the book that I really liked about is the Bhagavad Gita for modern times. Okay. So Bhagavad Gita, that's the essence and the root of, I don't know, thousands of years of generation that still holds true.
True.
So there's this person, in fact, I have it over here, it's called Tirtha, Swami Tirtha. So it's being translated and formulated by him. And it says Bhagavad Gita for modern times. And so you basically, what is it is there is a much more simpler way, and taking the real life nowadays example, correlate with the relationship, with the business, with the job and everything, and how Gita can really guide you with some of the problems. Because no matter what, the problems what used to be there like 5,000 years back and today, the very basic essence of the problem is same. You might have a different type of problem, but the anxiety and the things related to it is the same. Be it be relationship, be it be money, be it be power, be it be fame, position, designation, it's same. So it is probably, this is one thing that has not changed over thousands of years, right? So that's one. In the recent one, in fact, Akhil is here. So I really liked what Akhil has written. In fact, I'm not sure if you have read his book, but in Up the Ladder, there's one chapter on the entrepreneurial mindset, and that's extremely important for me, at least. I can really relate to that. That how you really need to view things from an entrepreneur point of view. If you look at an entrepreneur versus the rest of the world, the difference is that maybe the rest of the world will not take the charge in order to do something. Wherein if you look at the entrepreneur, probably he or she will take it as their own responsibility to do something. So they won't shy away. Okay, they'll just put their hand in it and they will get it done, and then laid back and relax. So that's how it is. So I think that's another thing I really like. I mean, there's one chapter on it. I think if you have not read, you should.
Definitely.
And I really recommend that book as well. So yeah.
I should thank you, Vinish, for taking the time on a Saturday and spending this one, I would say slightly more than 1 hour. I don't know if we all noticed it, but it's slightly over an hour. But thank you so much, Vinish.
You're really welcome. I really enjoyed the conversation.